What is going on, y'all? Did this a little bit yesterday, but today gonna be touching it up just a little bit more. My Spyderco Bodacious has some lock stick, and it's definitely better than where it was, but today we're just gonna be touching it up a little bit more. What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? Don't know what happened here. Hello, first comment. Appreciate it. Right now we are taking care of some lock stick on this Spyderco. So I'm doing, taking a sharpening stone, taking it to the lock surface here and just trying to get the lock stick off of this guy. Been something that's been bothering me for quite a while now, and figured I'd just go ahead and take care of it. I did a little bit of this yesterday, but right now we're just gonna finish it up and hope that this works. Don't know if it will. It definitely helped when I did this yesterday. So we're just gonna go right back over all of the areas and see what we can do here. My guess is it was just really poorly finished from the factory, and it happens sometimes. You'll get one of these that just left the factory a little rough. All you got to do is just touch it up. So that's what we're doing today. How's everybody's Friday going? Really close to the weekend. Hope y'all had some amazing weeks this week. And also, this channel is primarily pocket knives, stuff like that, obviously. But if you carry knives on the regular, what knife do you carry? What's your go-to knife right now? Not even sure how you say that name. Kodru Tapadorian. Kodru Tapadorian. Appreciate the first comment. Now what I'm doing here is I'm not really trying to take away any material off of the lock surface because that would cause some issues. All I'm doing is just polishing up some rough edges. Live in Romania. That's pretty dope. I can sort of see where the problem area is and where it's getting stuck in the Black Sea. Hell yeah. I can see where this is getting hung up. So I'm hoping just taking the rough edges off of here is going to take care of the problem that we've got going on. did some work on this guy yesterday. Got somewhere with it, but definitely not to the point where I prefer it. Do you have any paste bottles? No, I don't. No, I do not. I think that just might do it. Get some oil on this guy. Let's put her back together and see where we're at. Over tighten some of these. There we go. A little bit better. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's definitely better than where it was. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Still a little bit, but not remotely close to where it was before. That's a lot better. Sweet. If you're wondering, this is the Spyderco Bodacious. I've got custom micarta scales on here, sort of the snakeskin pattern, and a custom Lince Northwest pocket clip. Really dig it. Let's see. I'll tune this up a little bit. Yeah, it's good enough. Yeah, I'm gonna call that good. Sweet. What are y'all up to today? What are y'all's plans for the weekend? What do y'all got going on? See what I might do. How's the edge on this guy? Oh, it's still fine. That's good. How is the edge on this one? Not so great. Not terrible, but we can take care of that right now. I'm gonna sharpen up this guy while we talk, this is the Tenable Knives Par. Really nice EDC style fixed blade. And what I'm going to use to sharpen it is my Work Sharp guided field sharpener. Love this thing. It's such a good sharpener and really, really easy to use. Your number one, hell yeah. Love to hear it. The reason I'm putting a fresh edge on this guy is because this will be the knife I'll be carrying all of next month. So I want to get this ready. I want to get this set for an entire month of use. It's going to be this knife and this one right here. These will be my two knives that I'll be carrying all of the month of April. And I just want to make sure that all of their edges are in good condition to give a solid reference point of where they start and how they end the month. If you're new to this channel, all year long I've been doing a month-long EDC where I'll choose two knives out of the collection to carry all through that month. And after a month, I check back in here and we see how they did. I'll update on if any of them needed sharpening, any issues I ran into, and how well they did. But every month they start with a fresh edge. And then we see where things are at. And now we'll flip her over. How are y'all doing? Getting somewhere here. All right, flip her over and do the same thing over here. now we'll finish it off here. All right, let's see where we're at. All right, now let's see where that's at. Better. All right, fresh edge is done. Fresh edge put on the Tenable Knives par. So that's ready to go for April. There we go. Like I said, I'm using the Worksharp Guided Field Sharpener. This is one of the best and easiest to use knife sharpeners that I've ever come across. I've used a lot of different sharpeners. Most are Worksharp. I have their knife and tool sharpener, which is belt and like sort of almost like a grinder. Really like that sharpener. But this is far better. One, it's portable. You can take it anywhere. Comes in this nice case. So a lot of times I'll have this in my backpack or just somewhere nearby to where I can just grab a knife and grab this out and put a quick edge on. I mean, you saw that. This took maybe 10 minutes, if that, to get the edge from borderline usable to pretty sharp. So love this thing. And yeah, the plates are magnetic, so they're replaceable. Worksharp does sell replacements for the plates, and this one specifically also came with 2 extra plates. So you have a medium abrasive and a extra fine. I believe this one is a coarse. Yeah, so you have a coarse plate. And I believe this is a fine. Yeah, pretty sure this is just a fine grit plate. But then you also have medium for an in-between. So once you get the coarse down, go to the medium, get that down, then you go to the fine grit, and then the extra fine. If you really want to get a like stupid sharp edge. For me, these 2 plates work just fine. I haven't had an issue just yet with either of them, and they've served me well. So highly recommend this sharpener. Like I said, super easy to use and really can't go wrong. Already has a ceramic rod leather strap for fine tuning edges. But yeah, just overall solid option when it comes to sharpening, touching up knives, stuff like that. But yeah, how are y'all doing? How's your day? Y'all got any questions? And like I said, if you carry knives, what is your go-to knife? What are you carrying? For me, honestly, most days, lately, this has been the one for me. This is the Spyderco Yojimbo 2, M4 steel, G10 handles, just a solid, no frills, insanely usable knife. This thing is a workhorse. Love this thing. But if it's not this, I tend to gravitate towards my Spyderco Manix 2. Absolutely killer knife. This thing is in Crewwear steel, so absolutely solid steel. And honestly, this could use a little bit of a cleanup. I was cutting down a shit ton of boxes the other day, and so this has a bunch of tape on it, which we'll go ahead and clean up really fast. If I still have... Do I still have any? Oh, I do. Pro tip for getting any sort of like tape or like grime, grit, anything sticky off of a knife blade. What I use is these little glasses lens cleaners. Pretty much all it is just an alcohol pad. And this is really good at taking off tape, gunk, just really anything off of your knife edge and your knife blade. Just takes down all of that glue and all the residue. And it works pretty fast. it's gonna take a little bit more work. I said I broke down probably 20, 30 boxes the other day and didn't clean this up once. There we go, it's looking better. There we go. All clean. And how is the edge on this? I actually haven't tested the edge on this in quite some time. Little piece of paper here. Okay, well, the edge on here is absolutely shot, pretty much. I don't know if that's just still like tape residue on the edge itself, or if this edge needs to be touched up. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this edge really fast. But I will say, even though it's not cutting paper, this thing cuts cardboard like crazy. Let's see how it stands now. Nope. Not even close. See, it wants to, but it doesn't want to at the same time. So this will be a good testing and a reference point. If your blade is ever at the point where you can no longer cut like thin paper like that, run it with a strop. And a lot of times, in most cases, simply just doing this will go ahead and fix that problem with the edge. Like I said, it was still cutting through cardboard just fine. So let's see if this does the trick. Just a couple light passes. Granted, this knife has taken 3 months of pretty solid use. About a month and a half straight, this was about the only knife that I carried. Got this towards the beginning of January and used it till the middle of February. Beginning of March. And I haven't sharpened it once. So a month and a half solid of just straight use. Let's see if that did anything. Not at all. But what we can do instead is we can go back to ceramic. A lot of times, if like an edge or a knife in this sort of condition, I won't necessarily jump straight to a full-on sharpening. I'll kind of work my way back, see how the edge responds to a strop. If it doesn't strop back, I'll hit it with ceramic and then a strop, see where it stands. And then if that doesn't do it, then I go full-on sharpening. But in most cases, this right here will do enough to get the edge back to being usable. And you'll get more life out of the edge of your blade. Because when you go straight to sharpening, that's kind of where I feel most people go wrong when their knife feels dull. And I have a video coming out tomorrow on this channel talking exactly about this. It's kind of where most people go wrong, is they feel their knife start to dull out and they just go straight to full-on sharpening. And the problem with that is your knife might not need it, and you're going to be taking away material from your blade that might not need to be taken away. So every time you sharpen a knife, you're removing metal, you're removing the steel from the blade itself. And so when you just jump straight into a full-on either using a like pull-through style sharpener, which I think is really popular among people who are unfamiliar with sharpening knives. I can't stand those sharpeners. One, they destroy your knife edge. Two, you don't even really get a super sharp knife after going through a couple of passes there. It really just gives a really nasty, rugged, not super sharp edge to your knife. Or even if you just jump straight to using like sharpening stones or any type of sharpening system, if you just jump straight into a full-on resharpening of your knife when it might not need it, you are going to lessen the longevity and the lifespan of your knife. Because the more material you take away, each sharpening is going to remove just a little bit of material from your knife blade. You do that long enough, and you're going to be stuck with a knife that you can't even sharpen or use because you're not taking care of your knife edges. All right, should be good there. Let's run it on the strop again just to clean up any sort of loose ends on the edge here. And let's see where we stand. But yeah, if your edge is starting to feel dull, I would recommend going with ceramic and a leather strop first before you just jump straight into a full resharpening of your blade. Because it might not need it. And we're going to see here if this one needs a full resharpening, which it might. I have not touched the edge on this knife other than stropping it a couple of times here and there. Normally it responds pretty well, but we're going to see here if that still stands. Or if this edge is just completely shot and we need to do something else. See? There we go. It's back. And just to prove it, let's grab another sheet of paper. That's how quickly you can get your edge back. Just like that. It's that simple. And that is where a lot of people tend to go wrong when sharpening knives, when touching up edges, is they skip the little stuff. That took me all of maybe 5 minutes to get the edge from basically not even cutting paper to slicing through paper, no problem. And it's as simple as that. I didn't need to go through the full sharpening process. I just needed to hit the ceramic, get the edge right back to where it should be, and now it's good to go. This should last another long while before I need to do that again. And the issue is if I had pushed it further, if I had gone a longer time without touching up the edge, then eventually I would need to do a full resharpening of the blade, because then it would be past the point where I could get the edge back to being sharp. And That's as simple as that. If you just hit ceramic and a strop every once in a while, you feel the blade starting to get caught up. You feel it starting to start to dull out. Ceramic, strop, you're good to go. Couple of minutes, you're back. Problem is when you ignore that and you push your blade even further, cut through more material, really start just beating on it, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's where that edge is no longer salvageable and you need to go on and do a full resharpening. But 99% of the time, you can fix a dull edge with ceramic and a leather strop. That's all it takes 99% of the time. And it's a quick, simple fix. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it saves you so much time in the long run just by doing that fast little process. I mean, you saw how fast that was with the Manix 2 here in Crewwear. Crewwear is a pretty tough steel, and it doesn't necessarily sharpen up all that easy. Like you're gonna be spending some time resharpening Crewwear, but you save yourself that pain, save yourself that long process of sharpening a tough steel like that with these two things right here. That's all it takes. I will die on that hill, and it's something that I feel like more people should pay attention to. But yeah, it's these two out of my entire collection have got to be some of my favorite knives. They're just tough, solid built knives. This one is an absolute beast when it comes to slicing and cutting. I love this knife. And I have not touched this at all. This knife edge is still the way that it came. And I haven't needed to touch up the edge at all. And that was after about a month. I'm still about a week away from putting this back on the shelf from my 1 month challenge, but that's how the edge stands after basically a full month of just hard, heavy duty use. And that's another thing that's really important when it comes to knives and what knives you choose to carry and use and put in your pocket every day is one, the style of blade and the steel. Now this is M4 steel, which is a very tough, durable steel. And that's why it's holding up so well. But on top of that, the blade is a hollow grind, which means that it starts out thick and then it sort of rounds. Like, I don't know how well it's gonna pick up, but on something like this, it is just one straight angle going from the thickest part of the blade up to the apex of the edge right here. Just one straight, thin, flat grind. You know, it's put on a stone at an angle and ground from thick point to thin point. But something like this is flat and then it curves to a thin, very, very thin and pointy apex of the edge here. What benefit you have with this type of grind versus the flat grind on the other Spyderco is this is incredibly thin at the edge. There is very little steel behind the edge and it's very, very thin. Most people are under the assumption that that makes the edge weaker and more brittle, more prone to breaking, chipping, stuff like that. And with softer, less durable steels, that is the case. But in something like M4, I think this is the perfect use case for M4 steel. It's very tough, very durable. It can take a lot of use. And even though it is very thin on the edge, as far as thickness goes, it can still take a really big beating before anything happens to the integrity of the edge. It's not going to chip. It's very, very tough and durable against like hard use. And so the edge won't roll all of that often. You're not going to have to deal with chipping. And that's why steel and blade geometry, blade grinds matter so much, because this same blade profile, same blade grind in a different steel is not going to perform as well. I think M4 steel is best suited in this type of knife right here. That's why I love it. I love this knife. But again, this knife is also one of my favorites. It's an absolute workhorse. It can take a beating. Cruwear is, again, a very tough steel. It has less wear resistance, so the edge will dull faster by nature just based on the composition of the steel, but it's still an insanely tough steel. The edge comes back very quickly with just ceramic and a leather strop, and just a very easy to work with type of steel. I love this knife. But yeah, that's my little rant when it comes to knives and blades and why shape, cut, profile matter a lot when it comes to the individual knife. Every knife is built different. I mean, you can see these are very, very different knives. They have similarities, but in all of their use cases, they're very, very different knives. But I like them both because they serve their purpose well, which is most of the time cutting down cardboard boxes. I don't do a lot of hard use type of stuff, a lot of outdoor type camping, bushcraft, chopping down logs, cutting branches. I don't do a lot of that stuff. Most of my knives are used for food prep, cutting fruit, cutting different types of food, and cutting boxes. That is primarily what my knives get used for. And are these kind of overkill for that? Maybe. But a good knife will last a very, very long time. And these knives have lasted a very, very long time based on, with this knife specifically, a little bit of story time. Every time I cut boxes, I aim for the trash can. And when you're cutting cardboard, sometimes the cardboard flies away. And I actually use this to kind of poke cardboard, pick it up off the ground. So this tip has seen, it's had a few run-ins with some concrete, and it is still just as good. No dulling. I can still, there's no hang-ups on the edge. It cuts just fine. That's why steel choice, while it is not the most important thing when it comes to a knife, it is still a consideration, because any sort of softer steel, this tip would be gone already. And that's my 2 cents. Is I've covered all of these topics in previous videos. If you want to take a look through my channel, be my guest. All of these are topics I have very much longer, in-depth reasons and discussions as to my opinions. I explain very, very well my opinions on when it comes to knife makeup, steel choice, stuff like that. So if you want to take a look through my channel, find those videos, be my guest. I'm pretty biased when it comes to my content. I think I make pretty decent content, which I think if you've stuck around in the live stream, I think you would enjoy it. So be my guest to go check that out. If you're wondering if you want a further explanation about my opinions and thoughts on that stuff, go for it. But yeah, knives, the build itself and the shape, the profile, the grind, everything is a lot more important to the usability of a knife over just, oh, this knife has good steel, it must be a good knife, which that's not always the case. Each knife is built differently and for different purposes. Not every knife is going to suit your purposes across the board. Point being, let me grab out some other knives here. Let's see. Let's go with the big boys. something like this knife. Now this is a cheap $20 knife that I got off of Amazon. Has a very interesting blade to it. I don't know, I just like the design. I had 20 bucks in my pocket, so I bought it. The steel is nothing crazy. It's DC53, which I have very little knowledge about. But on paper, it should perform and be pretty similar to D2, if not a little bit better. But this knife should, in theory, be very good for cutting, slicing, food prep, stuff like that. It is well suited for sort of chopping and doing stuff like that. Problem is this is one of the cases where steel choice does matter, because this steel seems to be a very soft steel. I don't know how it was heat treated. My assumption is it was done very poorly, because it took one little incident with a cutting board to, I don't know how well it's going to pick up. Let's take it to the paper and that'll show you. Right here. That's where it got hung up. All it took was one little slam on a cutting board, and the edge is completely rolled and dulled out. I can see it. I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera, but right here, there's a significant roll in the edge. I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera, probably not. I think this knife would handle a lot better in a better steel. One of the very few cases where I believe steel choice is more important than the actual makeup, because the blade itself should lend itself very well to that type of use. However, the steel choice here, the heat treat, maybe even with a better heat treat, this knife would fare better in usability. But as it stands right now, this is not a very good knife. Now, you get what you paid for. I paid $20 for this knife. I should have assumed that it would not be a very good knife. I was proven right. But again, something like this little EDC fixed blade. This is not a knife you would take camping. This is not a knife you would use for cutting food, just based on the blade shape. If you go to cut food, that tip is going to wear down very quickly. And this is not the kind of knife that you would use for that type of task. This is better suited for cutting, slicing, cutting boxes, cutting into packages, stuff like that. But this is not a food prep type of knife. If you want one that's going to be an overall sort of, checks a lot of boxes, you want something like this that has a little bit of curve on the edge itself. A little bit of curve goes a really long way. And even something like this knife right here, something where you can actually rock the blade back and forth. Like I can get a decent bit of roll on this knife because of the way that the edge is formed, which means this is a very good knife for food prep. I've used this a lot for cutting fruit, cutting meats, cutting, just about everything. This knife is very, very versatile, just based on the way that the blade is formed. And that is a big consideration when talking about what knife you're deciding to buy. If you're stuck between a couple of different knives, look at how the blades are shaped, look at how the blades are formed, and think about what you're going to be using that knife for. If you want sort of an all-purpose kind of knife, and you're deciding between a blade with a flat edge versus a blade with a little bit of curve to it, a little bit of belly, you're going to want a knife that has a little bit of belly, because this is going to be more of an all-purpose type of knife. You're going to be able to do a lot more with this knife versus this one right here. This is a cutter. This is a slicing designed knife. It's going to be really good at getting through material, but not so good at, food prep, stuff like that, because of that razor blade type of shape to it. That doesn't mean that this knife is any less good. It's just very purpose driven, versus this is a very overall user type of knife. You can do a lot with this. If you wanted to take this out in the woods and carve some wood, carve some sticks with it, you can do that. This is a very, very well-rounded knife and checks a lot of boxes when it comes to what you're able to do with it. So that is something to consider when talking and thinking about what knife you're going to buy. You really have to narrow down what you're going to use that knife for. I have very different knives for very different purposes. My main outdoor knife is this guy right here. This is my outdoors take with me when I'm going backpacking, hiking. Very big fixed blade with a pretty thin edge, and there is no handle scales. It's just metal, which means there's not going to be any food or grease, water that is going to build up and cause this blade to rust. This is a very, very good outdoor type of knife. Can sit on the strap of my backpack any which way. It could sit on a belt, and this lends itself very well to outdoor use. Can it cross over into everyday carry and EDC, daily use type of stuff? Yeah, I've used this a lot as a everyday type of knife. It's great. The edge is great. I was really hoping that it would cut. I haven't actually carried this knife in a very long time. I have other knives, like I said, that I prefer to use over this because this is not the most convenient knife to carry around in my pocket. If I'm going to be carrying a fixed blade, honestly, it's going to be something like this knife right here, or this guy. The Bradford Guardian 3 is one of my all-time favorite sort of EDC fixed blades. It's really compact, really good size, thick handles, so even though it's small, it fills out the hand really well. Has a good size blade on it. Steel is M390, and this is overall just one of my favorite knives to carry. It's really, really solid. Checks a lot of boxes for me. When I was working my blue collar job, this honestly was the knife that I had in my pocket 90% of the time. And really hope, yeah, the edge is still really good on here. That's me. This is a very small piece of paper. Yeah, the edge is still really good on here. I've used this. I have abused this to no end. I've used this to cut wires. I've used this to stab through sheet metal. I've used this to cut fiberglass insulation. I have used and abused this knife, and it's still, I mean, you saw, it slices really, really well. This is one of my favorite overall, all around type of knives. I can take this camping. I can take this out in the woods. I can chop wood with this. This is a very, very well-rounded type of knife, and I absolutely love it. The sheath I have made into a pocket type of sheath. This was originally, there was no clip. It was just a leather on your belt type of sheath. Didn't like that. I didn't feel like spending more money to buy a custom sheath, so I put a pocket clip on here myself. You could see all of the cut marks that I messed up on here. I've never worked with leather. I've never done something like this, and I put this together 2 years ago, something like that. And this has become one of my all-time favorite knives to carry, just because it is well suited for just about everything. So that's what I say when I say that blade design and blade makeup, geometry, grinds matter a whole lot more than just the steel. The steel is an important aspect, but there are so many other things to consider than just, oh, this knife has Magna Cut, this knife has 20 CV, this knife is M390, so that automatically makes it a good knife. In a lot of cases, yes, but in some cases, no, because it's not designed necessarily for the purpose that you are going to be using your knife for. So, big long rant, but yeah, if you're looking between, fixed blade versus folding knife, what knife steel you should buy, what type of knife you should buy. I have probably 5 or 6 videos that I've uploaded on this channel previously that you can go look at. I do a deep dive into all of those different topics and cater it to, if you're in the middle of trying to make a decision on what knife you should buy. I've got videos for all of that. So take a look down at my channel and you'll find a bunch of really good information on a lot of different topics. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I think this is where I'm going to cut it off. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your day.